and hear my words, I am pleased. And he will not let anyone to get in the way. And that's what Mary did. And that's why Jesus, we read that in the, when we think about this story again, church, I want you to see that Jesus is full of grace and truth, and he wants to fill us up with that fullness. And then when you take a look at the story just now that about the woman, the widow, with the oil, think for a moment. When did the oil stop? When did the miracle stop? The miracle stopped when every single jars were filled. When the widow said to the son and said, son, give me another jar. Mom, you read the story. We read the story last week. Mom, every jar has been filled. Because she was filling every jar with the oil that was constantly being filled in her own jar, miraculously. But when the vase, when all the jars, when all the vessels, when all the containers were filled, the miracle stopped. The supply stopped. Think about the story about the feeding of the 5,000. When did the bread and fish stop multiplying? When they were filled. The Bible tells us, so they all ate and were filled, and 12 baskets of the leftover fragments were taken up by them. As long as they were hungry, the bread kept on multiplying. As long as they were starving, the fish kept on multiplying. But the moment they're filled, the miracle stopped. And fragments was collected, the 12 basketfuls. Church, when we come to Jesus full, I know it all. I know the Bible. I went to seminary. I know, I heard this sermon before. I know it. You're full. Jesus cannot fill us. But when we come, say, Jesus, I'm empty. Every day, I'm empty. Every day, I need you. I need more of your grace today. I need more of your truth today. When we come to him empty, when we come to him hungry and thirsty, he will fill us and fill us and fill us until we say, enough. Just like the people who are eating here. When the vase was full, the oil stopped flowing. When they were full, the multiplication stopped. But we come to him every day. Jesus, I come to you empty. But I see your fullness. And I see that you're ready to fill us up. And I want you, like Mary, sitting by his feet, listening to his word. He will constantly give us his bread of life. He will constantly fill us with his oil of the Holy Spirit. Because he is a God that wants to fill us up. He wants to fill us up. He wants to give us abundant life. John 10:10 says that. Filled with his grace. Full of his truth. So when we come to church to worship him, do we come with the attitude that I'm full? Oh, I wonder what this pastor is going to say this time. Oh, who's the worship leader this time? Just come for the food, Oh, it's this. Everybody may have preference who preaches here. But if we come to church, Lord, I'm empty. Fill me today. Fill me. Whoever is going to preach from up here, whoever's going to lead worship here, fill me, God. Fill me. If that is our attitude, God will fill us up with his grace and his truth. But if we come with the attitude, what is he going to say now? Oh my goodness, him going to lead worship? If we come with that attitude, God cannot fill us up. If we come with a judgmental spirit, we come with resentment, we come with full of stuff, God can't fill us up. But we come like Mary, fill me up. Fill me. He wants to fill. You know how Jesus filled himself? It says right there what we read earlier. So he himself often withdrew into the wilderness and prayed. We need to make that time, church. Individually, we need to come to the Lord to be filled. To be filled by his grace and his truth. This is verse 16. A few verses before that, 4 verses before this is an interesting story. Because in the Old Testament, you remember, the law was there to keep us separated from God in a sense, okay? Because the law is there to show us that we are imperfect. In the Old Testament, we cannot touch the sick. We cannot touch the unclean. When we touch an unclean animal or unclean or dead people or sick people, we become unclean. But look at what happened a few verses before that. And it happened when he was in a certain city that behold, a man was full of leprosy, saw Jesus. And he fell on his face and implored him, saying, Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Then he put out his hand and touched him, saying, I am willing, be cleansed. And immediately the leprosy left him. Is that a wonderful story, church? Here's Jesus. The Jews were taught not to touch the leper, because as soon as you touch the leper, you become unclean. But here's Jesus. And a man begged him, Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Jesus did not only say, I'm willing to be clean, but he actually touched the man. He touched a leper. And his fullness went to that leper man, and the leprosy left him. Because his fullness went into him. You know, when Jesus healed people, he can feel the power flowing through him. Remember the verse we read earlier? The power of the Lord was there to heal them. Jesus wants to heal. Jesus wants to fill you up, fill me up. Are we willing to come to Jesus tonight and every day? Lord, I'm a leper. I'm empty. Please touch me. I need to be cleansed by you. If that's us, Jesus said, I will touch. Not only will he say, I will make you clean, but he said, I will touch you. We need his touch. Let me end with you with one story. A famous story again that you're all familiar with, but I think this will make my point, to close my point. You know this story. This is the short version. And suddenly a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the hem of his garment. For she said to herself, if only one may touch his garment, I shall be made well. But Jesus turned around and when he saw her, he said, be of good cheer, daughter. Your faith has made you well. And the woman was made well from that hour. Now, this is the short version of the gospel of the story told by Matthew. But Mark, interestingly enough, told a different story. An expounded story. And Mark is usually not known for expounding. Because Mark, if you look, it's the shortest gospel. He liked to make everything very fast and quick. But look at the way he described it in Mark. It says like this. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood of 12 years and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came from behind and a crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. Immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. So Mark told the story. This woman for 12 years has been going from doctors to doctor to doctor to doctor. Not only doesn't get any better, but she gets worse. And she lost all her money. I guess these doctors charge a lot of money. It says that she had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. She was empty. She was empty in her pocketbook. She was empty financially. She went to so many doctors for 12 years and no one could help her. And finally she says, there's only one doctor who can heal me. And that is Jesus. She said, if I can just touch him, if I can just touch even his garment. There's another sermon of itself, why that garment and where it was touched. But if I can just touch him, I know I can be healed. Look at what happened next. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples said to him, you see the multitude thronging you, and you say, who touched me? Do you know what the disciples were saying? Jesus, what are you being funny here? There's hundreds or maybe dozens of people around you touching, hustling, trying to get close to you, and you said, somebody touch you? You know why I underlined the word touch me here? Because when I was reading this, meditating, I never saw this, but it spoke to me when I was preparing this. I said, do you notice that there were dozens of people, let's say, or hundreds maybe, around Jesus, touching, bustling, trying to get close to Jesus. But when a woman of faith touched him, he felt the difference. He felt power coming out of him into that woman. And he stopped. He says, who touched me? I feel the power coming out of me, even though there was dozens of people touching and pushing him, whatever. Church, I imagine us coming to church to worship God. We could be the crowd that wants to worship God. We worship Jesus.